anticipating this for months, the announcement of the new federal stimulus, as well as an unexpected second round of state stimulus through the MGCC. So I'm Chris Cooney with the Metro South Chamber of Commerce. It's a pleasure to welcome you here with us again. This is our 40th week, if you can believe it, of calls and distributing information on Friday afternoons. We have a solid, steady group of participants who have been really helpful in helping us spread the word about all of the latest information regarding not only the health side of this COVID crisis, but also the resources available for residents, employees, and most importantly, in our case, businesses, both small and larger ones. We want to just take a moment to remind you that if you have a question, we encourage them. There is Q&A and chat down below, so please post your questions and your comments down below. Alexi is helping us in the back of the administration on Zoom, and Emma is with us as well, both from the chamber. So I wanted to also acknowledge our partners who are helping to promote this call: the Avon Industrial Park Association, the Bridgewater Business Association, the Brockton Area NAACP, the Campello Business Association, Cape Verdean Association, the Easton Chamber of Commerce, the East Bridgewater Business Association, the Haitians United, the Massachusetts Small Business Development Center Network, the Norwell, Pembroke, Randolph Chambers of Commerce, as well as the Stoughton Chamber of Commerce and the South Shore Women's Business Network. So we want to thank all of our partners for promoting these calls. Also, just want to acknowledge we have a number of chambers from across the state on today. I had a call earlier today and mentioned that all of you are going to be on the call. So we have chambers from the Massachusetts Association of Chamber of Commerce Executives, a number of them from throughout the state. So we welcome all of them. And folks, colleagues, if you have questions, please chime in down below. So we're going to start off today with the mayor of Brockton, Robert Sullivan, who has worked every day throughout the holiday. I think I've seen you or heard from you or texted you each and every day. I know you've got a young family as well. How's it going? I mean, how are you doing it all?
Yeah, no, I want to thank you, Chris, and your wonderful partnership and how responsive the chamber is and how the members and of course, Margaret and Susan and Eli, 40th week. I mean, it really, it's amazing how we've been working together for so long. But, you know, in terms of what's going on here in the city of Champions, the city of Brockton, I mean, COVID has claimed 2 more lives. So we're up to 350 loss of life in Brockton as of today. We're over 9,000 total cases, 9,281 total cases. Current active cases, 2,270 residents have positive COVID-19 right now. That's the sadness. That's the bad news. The good news is as of Monday, we're going to start rolling out some vaccines. We are utilizing Brockton High School, 12-hour shifts, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. for our first responders, our police, our fire, some other frontline staff. It's going to save lives. So we've had a plan. We've worked on the plan. We did a walkthrough today at Brockton High. And those that don't know, Brockton High, it's one of the largest public high schools east of the Mississippi. We have 4 different cafeterias, 4 different libraries. So we are going to maximize the potential of the vaccine, and it really will make a difference. So that's the good news going next week. And then a couple other pieces of information just want to share. Going into the new year, I had a wonderful conversation with Mayor Dan Rivera, who is going to, of course, be the new CEO president of Mass Development. And the mayor and I had a half-hour call the other day. He gets it. He represents a gateway community like I do. A couple walkaways I had from the mayor was that when he takes his new role over, he's really going to be ready, willing, and able to help mayors out throughout the Commonwealth. And that's really awesome. It really is. He also is going to take it upon himself to work with the Baker-Polito administration to really continue to foster assistance for our mom and pops, our small businesses, specifically in the gateway communities such as Brockton. The other endeavor I think that's really a game changer is that the development continues in Brockton. I don't know if your colleague in Worcester County, former Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray's on this call today, but Tim and I have been friends for many, many years. And I reached out to him not too long ago, and he was able to send some developers to come and look at the city of Champions. And one of those developers is going to invest in Brockton. And it's great for our tax base, and it's really great for our ability to employ other residents and business opportunities. So I want to thank your partner up in Worcester County and Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray. And then Bob Rivers. I had a wonderful call with the CEO of Eastern Bank, and Bob's a Stoughton guy, and he went to Stonehill, and he and I have become friends over the years. But the Brockton partnership is something that unfortunately was paused a bit this year because of COVID. But COVID is not quite gone yet. But when it's in the rearview mirror, we're going to be ready, willing, and able to really put the pedal to the metal and get going business wise. So those are some good things going on, Chris. But I'm here to listen and learn like I do every other week. And again, I just want to thank you, Chris, for your team to set this up. It's really rewarding.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much. You covered a lot of ground there. Mayor Rivera is great. And that Lawrence area is very similar to the Brockton area in terms of demographics and such. So it's great to have his perspective in that office. Tim Murray is a colleague and a friend. He's out in Worcester. I don't know if he's on this call today. He could be. I haven't looked at all the roster yet, but it's great to hear that he's making references to us. And I know you and I have collaborated on 4 or 5 companies on all ends, east, west, and south sides of the city. So north must be coming this week, maybe. And I know both Margaret and Susan have followed up with several of them, and there's some good opportunity there. You talked about the 12-hour shifts of getting the inoculation out. I think a lot of people are wondering how can this be ramped up? I know in many instances, people were told that they were going to be receive the vaccine by the 31st of December, and it still hasn't occurred. We were hearing there's going to be a big push. These 12-hour shifts are something new and I hadn't heard of. So this is great. This is for first responders. And is it just Brockton or is it the surrounding towns too?
No, just the city of Brockton. It's running out of our Board of Health. The Commonwealth had given us a tentative delivery of the 4th. We spent $13,000 to get a freezer weeks ago that would accommodate either the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine. We have it located in a safe location because it's like liquid gold, this vaccine. But yeah, it came in on the 5th, so they were only a day off, and we've been ramping it up. The plan actually was generated decades ago, with the hope that we would never have to execute it, but we are executing it. So again, I did a robocall yesterday to all our seniors and elders in Brockton. They're not getting the vaccine yet. The state hasn't given us that guidelines, but as soon as they do, we're going to be ready, willing, and able to accommodate. And it looks like, Chris, citywide will probably be in April, and that's when we'll do probably 170 clinicians, nurses, and doctors and PAs. I want to thank Brewster Ambulance. They're helping us as well to administer the shots, but it will be just Brockton employees next week.
Okay. And will that model be used as you continue into the next phases, meaning at the high school, 12-hour shifts, that kind of thing? And will they have to sign up at some point or just show up?
So what we're going to be doing when we roll it out citywide, I mean, we're a city of over 100,000 people, and we won't get 100% people that are going to come and get that, maybe 60% or so, but it will be. And at that point, it's going to be a larger scale. It's going to be 12-hour shifts like we're doing now. So Monday's kind of a test case. We're going to run it really effectively. We've dotted the I's, we've crossed the T's. But at that point, Chris, it will be utilizing all 4 cafeterias, all 4 libraries. Again, once you get the shot, you have to be observed for 20 minutes. Some people have some negative ramifications, unfortunately, so you have to wait. But it's a minuscule amount of bad ramifications, but we have to be cautious. So we will roll that out, and I'll give an update as soon as we have more of a steady date of when we'll be able to do that.
Okay, that's great information. Thank you, Mayor, for all of your efforts and the new information that you shared. Just want to close out with you in terms of the $10,000 grants for COVID. I know you had made those available beginning in the fall. And I think Sheila had just reported recently that a good amount of the $500,000 or so was distributed. Will that be reopened or is that closed now?
So it's closed as of now. Out of the 50 allotments, 37 were given, so 370 grand, approximately, give or take. Some people didn't want the full 10 grand, but we are actively working right now with the BRA and with Mass Hire to try to ramp that up. And again, one of the things that Bob Rivers and some of the local banking institutions want to do is they want to help us be able to give the aid that is needed for our small businesses. So that round has closed, but we are ready, willing, and able to reopen and figure out how we can get money in the hands of the people that need it the most. So again, I know some people were upset about the application process, but it was set by the feds and it was a HUD application. So we'll just continue the efforts, Chris, together. That's what it's about, working together.
That's great. And, you know, in talking with you and Bob and others, and support from the redos, MMLBD, we've extended hours of Teresa Lobo Albin, who's an accountant in the area, and she's going to be willing to sit down with small businesses and listen to them and guide them with additional small business assistance. And that's going to be, she's going to be primarily focused on people with second language, English second language, women, minority, veterans, and such, and Gateway City businesses. But she'll talk to anyone, and we're going to make her information available down below, and she'll be available a minimum number of hours each week and each month to help in this whole process. And again, that's thanks to our partners at MLBD. So thank you. Okay, I think I'm gonna now move on to Margaret and Susan. I'm not sure who's going first. Is it Margaret? Yep, want to go that way. So Margaret's with the Mass Office of Business Development, and she and I have been talking recently about several local companies that are looking to expand and invest, not just in the city, but in the region. And she's got some good information for those folks and for existing companies she's going to share with us. Can you give us a little bit of like, just a 30-second overview of where this money came from and why it's available now and how much is available?
Sure. So the grant program that we're talking about is going to be administered from the Baker-Polito administration. Some of the funds are coming from this year's fiscal year operating budget, and there's also federal money from the CARES Act. So that's the Mass Growth Capital. We've already on the call today with Secretary Keneally, Larry Andrews from the Executive Director of Mass Growth Capital was on and said he's already administered over $116 million, and this is all grant funding. So if you have applied, and Sue and I have talked about this grant program or the Mass Growth Capital grant programs on these calls a few times, but if you are in the queue that you've submitted your application and you were not funded in the first round, you do not need to reapply again. But if for some reason, like you didn't have your certificate of good standing in, or some of your paperwork was incomplete, like if there was an issue and you were kicked out or something, we would want you to resubmit again. But if you're in there, you submitted everything, hang tight. They are reviewing those applications. $668 million is a lot of money to administrate. The Mass Growth Capital team is small. So I'll give you the grant deadline is up January 15th at midnight. So you get through next week. The application is online. There are some webinars, and I'll put that link in the chat. LISC Boston is the TA technical assistance provider, and there's multilingual application assistance as well. So they've really done a great job with their outreach, with webinars, really helping you get over the finish line. So many of our partners often on this call, like the Mass Small Business Development Center, SCORE, we want to help you get this application and we encourage you. So this round is focusing on the sectors who have recently had their capacity reduced. As you know, Governor Baker just the other day announced the extension through January 24th for the reduced capacity for 25% for some of those industries. So the priority categories for this funding are the restaurants, the food trucks, caterers, indoor recreation and entertainment, like your arcades, bowling center, escape rooms, the movie theaters, comedy clubs, any performing arts centers. But just to make note, this is for-profit businesses. This isn't your nonprofit, theaters. This is your for-profit businesses, gyms and fitness centers, sports facilities like the tennis club, the hockey rink, personal services, nail salons, barbershops, independent pharmacies, independent retailers, anyone who's supporting the events industry. If primarily 50% of your primary revenue source is event related, for example, a photographer, a florist, limo service, event planner, those are also priorities. And any business with a brick and mortar location that's remitting sales tax. So the eligible, it's a grant, it's up to $75,000, and the funds are very similar uses to the federal PPP program. So it's for employee payroll and benefits, it's for mortgage interest, it's for rent, utilities, and just the interest on other debt. So I'm happy to help answer any questions on that. I think there's been a lot of media around that. I will put the link in for the webinars and the link to get you technical assistance. You do need your certificate of good standing. Now, this is from the Secretary of State's office, and there's instructions on the Secretary of State's certificate request page about how to get that expedited. So that's a really great program. Another update I wanted to give, and we heard obviously Chris, we appreciate you join us every couple of weeks with Secretary Keneally and Secretary Costa. And, this week we had Bob Nelson from the SBA. We had Larry from Mass Growth Capital. We also had, which I thought could be of interest to Brockton, Mayor Sullivan is a former Gloucester Mayor Carolyn Kirk with the Mass Tech Collaborative, talked about hotspots. So some of the broadband access and the internet access and the Mass Hire, some of the resources they're putting in for access to technology. I know one of the Mass Hire centers is located in Brockton, but the city of Brockton as a gateway city could be eligible for 3 outdoor hotspots for your community. So I'll send that information over to the administration when we receive that. And we talked also about, big news this week with the legislative session transferring into the new legislators. But at the midnight hour or the 4 a.m. hour, they did pass the Economic Development, the Partnerships for Recovery bill that we've been talking about on some of these calls as well. So there's a lot of neighborhood stabilization funding, small business support, housing choice, which is something really being able to the housing crisis in the Commonwealth and reduce the cost of housing by building more housing. So that is things that we're going to see being rolled out. And then also the transportation bond bill did pass. Sue will talk a little bit about the unemployment insurance, and of course that bill has not passed, and Secretary Costa can we talk about resubmission on that. The other update I have this week for you is on the paid family medical leave rollout. This is now in effect, and there's, I think Secretary Costa mentioned about 7,000 claimants already, and payments would be received on this by the end of the month. But if your business, we do need from each business to, if your employees are going to take advantage of this, we need to know who to communicate with at your business. So we do have a call center open Monday through Friday. The phone number is here on the screen, and then we're asking for you to just give us a call proactively to know who would be the administrator for your, handling this for your company. So we do want to make sure to know that. I should also give a shout out to this call. Mayor Sullivan referenced Mayor Rivera being the new chief executive for Mass Development. And I see on this call, and he's always on these calls, is Jay Patikas, is the Southeast representative for Mass Development. And so it's great to hear, Mayor, that Tim Murray is sending some potential developers your way. We obviously as a state want to be a strong partner. There's so many great resources, and of which Mass Development is a great financial partner in particular. So we look forward to working with you. And, Chris, you're so great about giving us, Sue and I, referrals to these companies. And really, you set the stage. And, I sent Chris and Emma a thank you note or congratulatory note today, and proud to share that your Chamber of Commerce is been designated one of, I think, the top grants in the REDO, the Regional Economic Development Organization program that the Commonwealth offers. And, not only it really dovetails well with the work the Chamber leadership does in your community, but it requires an expanded amount of communities that you represent for regional economic development. There's a lot of work that goes into that. So we really appreciate it. You've been a consistent partner of Sue and I, and we enjoy working with your team. So congratulations on that grant award. It's a cumbersome process, and we were quite pleased to see you be fully funded this fiscal year.
Well, thank you, Margaret.
And as always, you have contact information for Sue and I. Really, our role is to talk to companies offline, make sure you're taking advantage of all the programs, grants, and incentives that the Commonwealth offers. If you're expanding your business, whether you're operating your business, you're struggling due to COVID, Sue and I we're your broker to state government. If there's a program out there that could be beneficial of you, we want to have that conversation with you offline to really understand what your business needs are and if there's any value we can provide. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sue.
Thank you, Margaret. And if you're on this call and you have any interest in talking through some of these programs and learning more, please reach out to both Susan and Margaret. They have been great partners for us here in the region and have assisted so many companies. So we thank each of them. Margaret, I just wanted one follow-up question with you. This is the second phase of grants. Many companies, I think 1 in 10 were funded in the first phase of the MGCC state grant program. They ran out of money. So one of the questions I've been getting is, do the companies that didn't get funded have to apply again for this new round of funds that's available of up to $75,000 for small businesses grants in Massachusetts?
Great question, Chris. So the first round was $50 million in awards. And I think there was a $500 million worth of applicants. It was a really big delta as to what the resource was we had. So if you submitted your grant application, you are in the pipeline now that we have additional funding. So hang tight, they're processing them. So they would originally start as 50.8 million. They have processed up to 116 million in awards. So just they're a very small team over at Mass Growth Capital, and they are working through it. But if your paperwork is in, you submitted that application through Submittable, you're in the pipeline for the grant application, hang tight.
Okay, great. Thank you
No
so
need
much.
to apply
I do
again.
wanna-
You don't need to replicate the efforts.
But if you haven't applied, you should, because there's a lot more
Correct.
money available now than the first. Okay, thank
And
you.
especially,
I just wonder-
gateway cities are a real priority for the administration. And so we definitely want to make sure if you're a restaurant in Brockton, apply for this grant. If you're a personal services business, barbershop, nail salon, apply for this grant. If you're a fitness center in Brockton, and not, this is a regional chamber, but by all means, we really want to get you to apply.
So this is a result of data mining that determined many small businesses in gateway cities in particular did not even apply for PPP, EIDL, or the state grants, or even the city grants that were available, just for lack of not knowing about it or needing a little bit more assistance or just being directed. Sometimes it's an English as a second language issue. And that's why I want to mention Teresa Lobo, who we just brought on, speaks Portuguese. Nós falamos Portuguese, right? So she speaks Portuguese, she's available. And of course, our largest population is of Cape Verdean descent, and they speak Portuguese. So that's why we brought her on and to talk a little bit about the processes on all of these grant programs. So thank you again, Margaret. Susan, good to see you. Thank you for all your efforts and your partnership with us. I know this was quite a bit of information covered by the Lieutenant Governor and the Secretary today. Can you just share with us what the latest is?
Yeah, certainly. So December 27th, the president signed a $900 billion stimulus bill. And with that is the Continued Assistance for Unemployed Workers Act for 2020. So there's quite a bit of new information related to unemployment that is part of that act. First things first, there is a new federal pandemic unemployment compensation that is an additional $300 a week for 11 weeks. So that is very similar to what folks received last year, which was that additional $600 payment. So now it's been reduced to $300. But for those who are eligible, the state has processed that, and they've actually, for traditional UI claimants, they've already processed those payments for this week. And for PUA claimants, those checks will be headed out this Sunday. So that is an additional 11 weeks. So it's going to be available to cover the weeks ending January 2nd and ending the week of March 13th. So the next is the pandemic unemployment assistance. That has been increased by 11 weeks. So it's now going to be a 57-week maximum. And again, this will end on March 13th. Unless claimants are eligible, some claimants may be eligible to extend to April 10th if they haven't reached that maximum number of benefits. So March 13th or April 10th for PUA. And then for traditional UI claimants, those will remain active and until federal funding conditions for the 20-week entitlement trigger off, or until the week of March 13th. So that's the latest on unemployment claims. And then Margaret touched on this, that the Governor Baker, there was legislation that was put before that was going to impact the UI employer rate schedule. That was going to put a freeze, because without it, there's a potential of an increase of 60% for employers. And unfortunately, it did not make it through this last round. So the plan is to refile that bill for the next round, and the hope is that it will get refiled soon and that will pass. So until that happens, there are not going to be any bills that are going to be sent out to folks. Normally, the bills are sent out in mid-December, and so without knowing what the rate is, they're not sending any bills out. So it's pretty much put on hold until they really know what's happening. So the hope is that this is going to just go through. There's just a lot on the plate, so I think it just was passed over this time. So hopefully, when it gets refiled, it will get passed, and then that will be implemented. So we're in a holding pattern on that. And then in addition, there just to keep people apprised that the scams are still ongoing, that if you are people have been impacted by unemployment fraud, and that there's a new actual phishing scam that's been going on. So if constituents have received a text message that includes a link requesting unemployment claimants enter their login and password on a site that looks similar to UI Online, do not respond. DUA will never ask you to reply to a text message or an email with your personal information. So that's another thing just to be aware of, that they're actually now doing phishing in addition to anything else that they've been mailing out and trying to get your information that way. So that's just something to alert you to be aware of. So that's the latest unemployment updates for you.
That's great, Susan. Thanks so much for that new information. So there was some talk about the 300 being increased to 400 a week. Is that not accurate?
Forgive me. Yes, you know what? I apologize. Yes, that is a new feature, and it is called it's called MEUC, and that stands for forgive me, this was all happening very quickly. MEUC. This is for individuals who could potentially be receiving PUA and UI claims. And so they could be potentially eligible for an additional $100. So that is a brand new program, and it's, as Secretary Acosta described it, as quote unquote, a little messier to deal with. They're still trying to work out the kinks of that program. So it's a brand new benefit. And so for individuals who are doing, so both a gig worker and have also received unemployment insurance, they may be eligible for an additional $100. So thank you for bringing that up, Chris. I apologize.
No, I wasn't sure I heard it correctly before, so that's why I wanted to ask you. But is that something you could share with us, a link or an article or
yes, yes.
We can send out to everyone?
Also, she also mentioned that they've put all this information up on their website, and I'll send the link out, that there's going to be some new some new reporting features or requirements that people are going to be required to do. And I've been looking for them on their website, but I haven't been able to find them yet. But I think there may be pieces that of a time frame that you have to be able to report back from what you're claiming. So as soon as I find those, I'll send those around as well. But there's going to be some new requirements for, I believe, PUA claimants. So okay. I'm not sure what those are yet. I have to look into that.
That's terrific information. So that might be gig economy workers, and that's going to complement the extra $300 from the federal government for unemployment through March 14th, I believe. So we'll 15th. Okay, so we'll get that information, and as most of you know, we always send an email out after this session with a link to the recording of the call, as well as all of the links to resources that were discussed, so that you can refer back to it. And please post it, forward it. The idea here is to get as much information out to people as possible, so that they can benefit from the resources that are available. So thank you very much, Susan. Appreciate your partnership. So I want to jump over to Eli. Eli Spayu is our representative from the Small Business Administration. I know I heard from you late yesterday saying, okay, they just released everything. If everything goes well, I'll have a chance to read it and develop some slides and be ready for your group. We did hear from Bob Nelson some highlights, but this is a great opportunity to hear from you directly. So I'm going to encourage folks that are listening and on the Zoom call to just post your Q&A, your questions down in the Q&A section so that Eli can take them. A lot of new components here, including nonprofit and chamber related opening of the PPP. And so take it from here, Eli. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chris, and Happy New Year to everyone. I know it's still early in the year, and the year is looking good so far. So we're definitely excited, to have this additional funding available to small businesses. Really, wish it had passed, a while back, and this money should have been now in small businesses balance sheets, and helping folks, but glad it's here and glad we're able to help folks again. So as I mentioned to you on that email yesterday, we did get some guidance. I have sent that guidance over to Lexi, I believe, so we can share those links. And we did get 2 interim final rules. So they're final rules, but I don't know why we call them interim final. It's just, the legalese from federal government, I guess, some red tape for everybody. One of which, it's an 82-page document. It deals with, it consolidates pretty much all the guidance we published in the springtime. And it includes, along the way, all the enhancements from the Economic Aid Act. So not a whole lot of new information, but definitely stuff we're going to cover today, to some extent. I know we don't have, a whole lot of time to go through an 82-page document. But the second interim final rule that was published also late on the 6th, actually at 11:59 p.m. on the 6th, on January 6th, was the IFR dealing with the second draw PPP loans. So what everybody's been anticipating and expecting. So we've gotten a lot of guidance on that front as well. The live, the Shattered Venues, right, grant program, which is a $15 billion program. We don't have all the details on that yet, and there's been quite a bit of demand from folks, whether it's our partners, our lending partners, or borrowers directly reaching out to us, but we don't have all the details on that grant program. Okay, I mentioned on the last call the enhancements to our traditional SBA loan program. So great, enhancements. Obviously for the 7A, the Express program, the 504, the addition of a new 504 Express program for certain CDCs, and all great news. Again, I'll answer any questions that if we've got any lenders on the line, but those are fairly technical, so I don't want us to get into that on today's call. But definitely would be glad to take any questions on that. With regards to the opening of the PPP loan program, so some of you may have seen a press release our office sent out. The agencies sent one out as well. A press release stating that on Monday the 11th, we are opening the first draw PPP loan program and second draw PPP loan program to all eligible recipients. But it is not, again, just want to clarify that it is only made available to specific lending institutions. So primarily what we call, the certified, development financial institutions, certified financial institutions, community financial institutions, micro lending intermediaries, CDCs, and minority lenders. So on the 11th, Monday, they will start accepting applications for first draw PPP borrowers, those who never received a PPP loan prior, okay? Or individuals who did receive a PPP loan, but they paid it back to the lender who they got it from because they didn't feel they needed it, or regulation was too much, or compliance with the regulation was too much, or whatever other a reason for paying back the loan. So those individuals who did not, receive a PPP loan will be again eligible for a first draw PPP loan. Again, same, pretty much across the board, same eligibility, with the exception of the added, recipients under the Economic Aid Act. The loan is a five-year maturity, so it's a convertible loan. So let me make that clear. It still has that option to be fully forgiven. 5 years, 1%, 5-year term, 1% interest rate, and obviously, fully forgiven if used in accordance with the CARES Act and the Economic Aid Act. So again, still 60% requirement for payroll costs. Eligibility for the first draw. So I want to make it clear, right? So eligibility for the second draw is very different than the first draw. On Monday, only, borrowers who apply through a community financial institution will be eligible to apply and will receive a PPP loan.
Does that include chambers of commerce and museums and nonprofits? So
if you can apply through a community, financial institution, yes. Okay. But on the 13th, we will make available the program, the second draw PPP loan program, and for all other lenders, we don't have a definitive date, but it's going to be shortly thereafter, he said on the press release. So the program is not opening up to traditional lenders, the banks, the credit unions, right, on Monday or Wednesday the 13th. So shortly thereafter, we're anticipating either on the 13th or any time, late next week, when the program is going to be made available, for everyone. So initially, the thought process is that, businesses underserved, in the underserved communities, they did not have full access to the program as everybody else did. So that's why the agency is making the program initially available, right, to new borrowers and certain existing PPP borrowers, right, for the second draw loan, who are eligible to apply through one of those community, financial institutions. So to make it clear again for everyone on the call, it would be CDFIs, the certified development financial institutions. They're minority lenders. There's CDCs and SBA microloan intermediaries that are eligible to accept applications on Monday. Okay. So again, we will have a definitive date soon. I would say early next week. They're going to give us the opening date for everyone else. Should be late next week, and again, I cannot bind the agency to a specific date, but it should be late next week when it will open up for everyone.
Okay, just to be clear though, so on Monday it's CDFAs and community development corporations, things like that, not banks?
Not banks.
Would credit unions be part of the Monday rollout or no?
Only if they are a CDFI.
Only if they're a CDFI, okay.
Right.
And so
Chris, the CDFI is a certification that an institution gets from the Treasury. Yeah. It has to be a nonprofit for the most part. So some credit unions are CDFI lenders.
Okay. Are some community banks CDFI lenders as well?
No, we have some community banks that are minority lenders.
And they would qualify on Monday.
But they would also qualify. CDCs are certified development, companies. Many of our CDCs did not participate in the first round, so we don't know for sure, right, who of our CDCs is going to be participating, or the CDFIs in the state for that matter. But we have a list. We're reaching out to each one of them, and obviously our SBA microlending intermediaries as well. So we'll be reaching out to them to see who will be participating on Monday, who will be taking applications. Now,
is that to give them a head start? Is that to give them a head start? Is that
exactly? So for the most part, right, these institutions being nonprofits, they work with underserved, borrowers, right? Minority, women-owned, veteran-owned businesses. So we're trying to give a head start to those businesses who did not have the ability to apply, during the first round. So that's the approach the agency has taken. and just making sure that there's a few set asides under this bill that, you know, we're giving everyone in the category, you know, a head start. That's exactly what it is.
Okay.
But again, we have a lot of the details on the program itself. As I mentioned earlier, the one program that, you know, is it's still a little vague as to how it's going to work is that shuttered live venues, theaters, and museums, you know, grant program. So that's a large $15 billion grant in total, right? So it has the a maximum grant of $2 million per institution. Could be up to $10 million for certain qualified, you know, institutions, and for
Okay.
affiliates in aggregate, it cannot exceed, you know, a 20 million. So really, that is a great program from the IFRs that, you know, we have read between yesterday and today. If we've got anyone on the line who either, you know, feels that they qualify for the shuttered live venues, you know, grant, the PPP second draw and that grant program are exclusive of one another. So I would highly recommend folks to wait until the guidance comes out before they apply for the second, you know, round of the PPP, right? The second draw PPP program. It could disqualify folks from that grant program, which may be the larger of the two. So that's, you know, that's my only concern there. As I mentioned, the second draw PPP program only goes up to $2 million instead of 10 million as it was prior. However, for, you know, for new participants such as the chambers, right, the 501c6s, the broadcasting stations, newspapers, and whatnot, they still have the same eligibility and same maximums as the first draw. So first time applicants will still have the full $10 million available to them. Same eligibility requirements, which is 500 employees or less, or the applicable NAICS code based on the size standard based on the NAICS code that they operate under.
Okay. So let me just pause here, because our audience today is mostly small businesses, chambers and nonprofits, and lenders, believe it or not, as I look at the roster here.
Yep.
And so I think the questions I see that are coming in are around IEDL. You know, there was a whole component of, gee, is a chance to get up to the $10,000. Could you address that? And then on the phases, I want to basically not panic people. If you can't get in on Monday, I want to go find a new lender or a new underwriter on Monday if it's minority or a CDFI or whatnot. I'd stick with your banker and wait the 2 days. Go through, go through that process with them. And because they already have your information, and they're going to know they're going to have the briefing and the dialogue and all that with you already. So, but it sounds like the folks that haven't received something are being encouraged to apply first, and then the second phase will come next, right? This is the second,
exactly.
round.
So, Chris, just to go back to that EIDL advanced program and the EIDL program itself. So again, the EIDL, the loan program, the deadline was extended until the end of the end of this calendar year, right? So December 31st of 2021. And we received an additional $20 billion for the EIDL advanced program. So the agency is going to start making those grants up to $10,000 available to those folks who already applied. They're obviously.
So let me pause you there, because there's just so much dialogue around this, and I just want to be clear with our listeners. Is if you applied for 5,000 EIDL advanced grant, I mean 10,000, and you got 5 because you had 5 employees, do you need to reapply for the other 5, or will you just get that at some point?
So it is $1,000 per employee up to $10,000. That still continues to be the case. So if a small business only has 5 employees, you're only going to get $5,000.
Okay, that is okay. So there's a little confusion on that. We're hearing different on that.
Yeah, it is still the case.
Okay.
So
and you're not eligible for that again, right? I mean,
that is correct.
All right. So if you
so
okay,
one shot,
okay.
bite at the apple. For those individuals, however, and I know in the lending community, this has been a frustration with many lenders and small businesses. For those individuals whose EIDL advance was deducted from their PPP loan forgiveness, okay, the SBA is going to pay in full those amounts that we withheld, right, due to the EIDL advance. And we're going to pay the lender, we're going to remit the full amount of the EIDL advance that we withheld, including the interest up until the day that the bank receives it. So if you've got any,
Okay.
if you've got any borrowers who are due to start making payments on those, because those idle advances, they became, loans, and in 30 days time, most lenders started asking for payments on those loans because that was the guidance we had under the Economic Aid Act. We will be able to go back, remit payments to the lender, not the borrower, right, to the lender again, and then the lender would pay off that balance, including interest, accrued interest on those idle advances that were withheld up until the day of the payment or remittance.
So they should work directly with their banker to work that out, right?
Absolutely. So the most folks who had monies withheld due to the idle advance, they'll get that money back through their lender, and the lender will be able to apply it towards the balance on those loans, those previous PPP loans. And again, the good news here is that most of those borrowers who are still in operation, this was something that the IFR made clear. So a business that's no longer operational, and we have gotten that question numerous times, which is unfortunate, but is not eligible for a second draw PPP loan. But most borrowers who receive the PPP loan will be able to apply for a second draw PPP loan as long as they can show, again, greater than 25% revenue drop, right, in any one quarter during 2020 as compared to 2019. And there's various categories, right? There's various categories for businesses that were operational for some quarters in 2019 versus, full year in 2020, who were operational on February 15th of 2020, but not operational, in 2019. So, those specifics, I can certainly, speak with individuals, on a one-on-one basis. But the guidance, that we published does speak to all of those situations. As I said, I think the first IFR, again, which the 82-page document consolidates all the guidance we published in the spring for our lenders, on the line. That is pretty clear. I'm sure folks have read it numerous times. It consolidates it into one document. It adds all the nuances of the Economic, Aid Act, all the new eligibility, anything that's ineligible. There's a couple of added certifications that folks need to sign. As far as the application process for the first draw loans, again, very similar to the program in the spring and summer. So the Form 2483, the process for lenders is well detailed. Lenders can rely on borrower certification. Lenders will be held harmless, again, if they do their due diligence and they basically they follow the rules of the program. So with regards to the second draw, and I know it's confusing because there's so many moving parts, so I hope folks are able to follow. For the second draw PPP program, eligibility is very different. Okay, so 300 employees or less, right? No alternative size standard, no NAICS code size standards allowed. So 300 employees or less. And then
that's 95% of our businesses. Yep.
Exactly. And in addition, right, we've got, the requirement to show the revenue drops of greater than 25% in any one quarter during 2020 as compared to 2019. Now, I know we've got many, sole proprietors, we've got many Schedule C filers, independent contractors, right, self-employed individuals. They will be able to use, right, because they perhaps don't have quarterly numbers. They will be able to use a year over year, right? So they can file tax returns and show that 2020 was at least 25%, showed a 25% reduction in gross receipts, and that would qualify. So it requires folks to, to file their taxes. However, one big benefit here, and I think this is worth pointing out, for loans under $150,000, which will be the case for most, Schedule C filers here, right? They do not need to produce that documentation with their application. They have until loan forgiveness for second draw to provide the documentation as far as tax returns to show the 25% reduction year over year. Right. So
and they can pick any quarter. I mean, some of them are seasonal employers or businesses. So if they're landscaping, they pick the quarter that's in the summertime. If it's a seasonal holiday, okay.
Absolutely. So the guidance we have available, and again, it's available on our website under sba.gov/PPP for Paycheck Protection Program. That speaks to those, one-off scenarios when you've got seasonal businesses, as I mentioned, when you've got businesses that were operational certain quarters, but not others, those who started their business in 2020, but were operational on February 15th of 2020. That is the a very important date, right? That's what makes, the small businesses eligible for PPP first draw and second draw loans.
So I'm going to summarize then, Eli, and basically tell folks what we told them last March is, if you have not applied for EIDL, apply for that first, for the up to $10,000 loan advance or grant advance. And that's free money. That's money based on the number of employees you have. If you have not applied, apply, because that will get you possibly, $1,000 per employee as a grant. And then it would possibly make you eligible for a loan on that side, but you should also apply for PPP phase one if you haven't. And so if you're a museum or a church or a chamber of commerce or an economic development agency, you should be applying for that PPP. It sounds like beginning on Wednesday through your local bank. If you've received both the EIDL advance in March, and many of our members have because we encouraged them early on, and then you received a PPP first draw, then you should be looking at a second draw at this point, applying for that second draw. I would advise that you go back to your same banker. They have a lot of your information. Tell them,
absolutely,
show them that you be ready to answer the question, have you suffered a 25% loss over prior year? Be prepared to show that, but you may be eligible for a second draw up to 150, well, maybe even more, but on average in Massachusetts, about $150,000, which is forgivable for payroll in particular, but also for utilities, PPE materials, and they've expanded actually the scope of what is eligible and allowable.
Absolutely, they did, Chris, and I think very timely, because we know many businesses who have spent funds in computer cloud software. They've tried to stay up with the times, with the change in environment, and a lot of those expenses will be eligible for forgiveness. Okay, the same ratio is applicable. So we've got a 60-40 split. So 60% is still going to be payroll costs, and 40% is going to be the eligible non-payroll, which includes the PPE and computer cloud software and things of that nature, right? So
rent, utilities.
Yes, absolutely. So the 40%, that doesn't change, right? In the 40%, you still have the mortgage interest and utilities and whatnot. A couple of other things.
Okay, I was going to say, one of the questions you might be getting to is, someone asked, are any of the SBA payments of loans like 504, 7A, are any of those going to be covered in this next round?
Absolutely. So that's where I was going to get to next, right? So in addition to the EIDL, which was extended, the PPP, which really, is going to make a world of difference for a lot of our small businesses. The first and second round, right? Especially the second draw, I think is going to make a much bigger difference. We're still going to continue with the debt relief payments, right? So any existing SBA borrowers, so that would be 7A, 504, microloan, right? Borrowers that are in regular servicing will receive automatically a 3 months payments, made by the SBA. So starting with February. In
They
addition,
don't have to do anything.
they don't have to do a thing,
They have
just
to
like
do.
before, right? Just like before. So some businesses, would be eligible, for an additional 5 months of those payments being made by the agency. So that would, that would be primarily, underserved, borrowers, underserved markets. There is a cap, right? Some of these loans, our program goes all the way up to $5 million, as you know it. So there is a cap of $9,000 a month on the P&I basis. So it's pretty significant, but on those 3 months, so that there will be a cap this time around, whereas there was none before with this particular program. And for newly approved loans, right? So again, I mentioned the enhancements we made to our programs. The Express program, is still at $1 million for the remainder of this federal fiscal year. So all the way through September 30th of 2021. So no fees for that program. I'm sorry, no fees. No. So the temporary increase will continue with that program. So that doesn't speak to the fees. The 7A, when the guarantee goes up to 90% on the Express program, for the first $350,000, the guarantee goes up to 75% from 50%. Okay, and then obviously any new loans, right? Any new loans will qualify, whether Express, 7A, 504 microloans, they will qualify for 6 months worth of principal and interest payments. And obviously, one of the things to keep in mind here, and the clarification that we made last time, was the tax treatment of all CARES Act products. So we've got the forgiveness. It's not going to be a taxable event, right? The PPP loan forgiveness. The EIDL advance is not a taxable event. We got clarification that expenses that are claimed for PPP loan forgiveness can still be claimed on the tax returns, right? Which is a big deal for many small businesses.
And items can be depreciated, right, or deducted.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that is, that continues to be the case, and again, that's additional good news here for for our small businesses in the Commonwealth.
That is all good news, and it's so folks should be looking at beyond just the PPP second draw, but to the SBA 7A 504 to see if you can be eligible. It's great to have someone pay your payments for 6 months and possibly be eligible now for another 3 months. That's terrific. Eli, there was a big announcement on the payroll tax credit program, which in prior year was up to 5,000, but now my understanding is it's 10,000. Or up to $20,000 per quarter in this new round. So that could be up to $40,000 in a direct payroll tax credit. Do you have information on that?
Not my department, Chris. Not my department.
Okay. That might be where Steve McAllister comes in. He's with us from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and I know the U.S. Chamber has been doing quite a few workshops and I guess the briefings on this new program as well. Let me just flip over to Steve for a moment. Steve, how are you? How's it going?
Great. Happy New Year, Chris. Good to see you.
Congratulations on the new baby.
Thank you. Two months old, almost two and a half weeks, 2 months and 2 weeks now. So.
Wow, and you look like you got a good night's sleep, so that's amazing. Your wife must be wonderful.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So tell me, this payroll tax, is that something you have information on? And what can you share with us?
On the new payroll tax, yes, that is something that people should be looking into as well, because it's different than, you don't have to wait till April when you do like a normal, tax credit. It's kind of tied into your wages, and you pay those, weekly or bi-weekly. So you can actually claim them at that time as well. So we have a great document on our website, the uschamber.com. If you go on there, we have where it kind of breaks it all down for you, all these different things. But that's the big takeaway now, is you don't have to wait to the end of the year at the tax time. Our big thing is we're not a tax professional. You want to sit with your tax professional, go through this, but it's set up to give you a little more flexibility to take advantage of these rolling, while you're doing your, your payroll costs and during the wages and stuff like that. So it's a lot more flexibility than waiting to the end.
And a larger amount in the second phase. So people should be talking to their payroll company about this and their accountant about this, because it's really in essence a grant through another means, which is the not the deferral, but the elimination of payroll tax for the federal side for your employees up to a certain amount per employee per quarter. Expires at the end of the end of June, is what I'm being told. And most of my information has been gotten from the U.S. Chamber. There was a briefing last week that we recorded, and we have posted at our recovery metrosouthchamber.com recovery and resource website for COVID. And you should listen to that. It's worth listening to that 45-minute video with U.S. Chamber personnel talking about how it works.
Absolutely. And Neil, who spoke on that from the U.S. Chamber, he talks about there's also a look back too. So, you may be eligible for stuff from 2019 as well as moving forward. So you really want
up to 5,000.
Yeah, exactly. So
Up to 5.
it is very helpful, a lot of flexibility. So make sure to get with your tax professional, your payroll companies to look at that and really take advantage of that, because this is all brand new from this new legislation. Thank
you. Well, let me I got a couple of questions here. Let me move to the Q&A. There was a question about the unemployment benefits. Susan, did you see that? There's one on if someone has exhausted all their unemployment funds, can they still apply for this extension to 57 weeks? And how can they find out about that? And then Carol Chin asked about the $75,000 state grant. What's the criteria? And where can she find the link on that? So why don't we start with those two?
So for the grant, you go to, I can put in the link. It's the Mass Growth Capital Corporation website. It's small. I think it's small. Be strong, something. Be strong. I'll put the link in the chat. So
okay.
That has all the information there. It's Mass Growth Capital Corporation's website. And as far as the unemployment claim, I would have that person reach out to me directly, and I can work with them with one of my contacts to see if in fact they're eligible, because I think it's more of a one-on-one situation. I think you could obviously try to reapply, but whether or not if you've extinguished your benefits, then you may not be eligible. But if you're eligible, then you can obviously reapply. So I think it's really dependent upon that person's where they're at in their process. So I can work with them directly, and I would encourage them to email me directly.
That's great. So reach out to Susan directly. And I think what we're hearing is it can't hurt to apply, and they'll apply the criteria to you in your situation. And who knows, you might be eligible for another 10 or 13 weeks, depending on what's going on. Plus, you might get the kicker from the federal government, another $300 per week. So it's absolutely worth applying there. So I'm just going to run through. There's also, this talks about what is the link to apply for the charity loan. I'm not sure, Jean, what you mean by that. Maybe you can write in. I didn't hear anything on a charity loan. There is a payment program that will pay your mortgage and your rent for up to $10,000. That's that link is in the chat area, and maybe we can post that again so it's up at the top. That is eligible through NeighborWorks, serving our region, and they are taking applications now. And that's up to, used to be up to $4,000. They just increased it to up to $10,000 in mortgage and interest payments for your home or your rent payments. So that's something that's available. And then I read the SBA payments made on a business behalf are taxable. That is not correct, Linda. That was addressed in this next round. Eli, correct me if I'm wrong. They basically said, they said there's no tax ramification to any funds that you've received from the federal government, correct? Oh, do we lose Eli?
He jumped off.
Okay, so that's where we are on that. Let me, that's what Eli had said earlier. There's no tax on that. All right, so let me see what else we have here in the chat room for Q&A.
Chris, while you're doing that, I'll
Sure.
just give a little elaborate on the growth capital criteria. You
Yep.
have to have a physical presence within the Commonwealth. Your business had to be established prior to June 30th of 2019. Those are kind of two of the biggest. You've got to be current on your taxes through March of 2020. If you did have like a payment plan, that is acceptable, but you must be current. And you must be a for-profit entity. So sole proprietor, partnership, corporation, LLCs are eligible, nonprofits not eligible. You must be able to document a loss of income equal to or greater than the amount of your requested assistance. So that's what they're looking for. And you must be currently in operation or have an intent to reopen. So for example, if you're a phase 4 business, you're currently closed, but you have the intent to reopen, that would have you qualified. So then as far as ineligible businesses, real estate rentals, sales businesses, a business owned by someone under age 18, a chain or a franchise. This was a little bit of controversy around this one with, what if I own that small independent, fitness facility, but I'm under a chain? You're not, unfortunately, you are not eligible. So franchises, liquor stores, lobbyists, cannabis related businesses, and nonprofits. So those are the ineligible businesses.
So let me ask you this: if there's a franchise located in a real estate which is held separately, would the real estate company be eligible, even though that they have a franchise that's renting from the real estate company?
So real estate rentals, what do you mean? The real estate rental and sales businesses are not. So the realtor's office would not be eligible. But if you're saying I own an LLC and then my LLC holds the property, right? The property
Yes.
pays the mortgage and then
Yes.
the tenant pays them.
Yes.
It does say that LLCs are eligible, but
Okay.
you've got to document your business loss.
Okay, that's very helpful for some of the franchisees that they do hold it that way. They have a separate LLC, and then they rent the space to the franchise. So that's very helpful. Steve, was there other information you wanted to add today, or that you've got in terms of the U.S. Chamber? I know you've got quite a few things you're putting out these days.
Sure. So we just have a lot of great documentations. Really take a look at the employment retention tax credit. They've done a lot of improvements to that. They've made it significantly more attractive to individuals. And now you can get both the PPP and the employment retention tax credit. It expires on June 30th, 2021. The prior credit was 50% on $10,000 in qualified wages for the whole year, or a maximum of $5,000 per employee. The new credit is 70% on $10,000 in wages per quarter, which is a big benefit. Again, we talked about the payroll costs for the same period. That's what they're going to be looking at. This serves as a cap on the total loan forgiveness of at least 60% of the total amount forgiven in payroll costs. So it's just a lot more attractive. Again, you want to sit with your tax people, with your lenders on this to make sure it's something that you're eligible for. But we want to really push that, because it is a lot more attractive than it was before in the first phase that came out. So we talked about the PPP already, so we don't have to hit on that, but there are new things that you can use that money for. The director, he had talked about, software, if you put it in a drive-through for your business now, you can use that. You put up plexiglasses around your bar or something like that. Those can do that. If you had any damages because of, the riots and different situations which happened across the country, you can use that as well. But again, the 60% still needs to go towards the payroll.
Right.
But you have a little more things that you can use up to 40% on. So there is a lot more flexibility now on these programs. 504c6s are now included. So hopefully our chamber friends will take advantage of that as well. That was a big thing.
Yeah, it's very nice to see the approach diversified, so that it's helping companies that did not lay people off too. meaning in order to get that employee retention federal tax credit back, you had to have retained your employees. And so that is something for that segment that was impacted, but maybe eligible, previously not eligible, or eligible for a smaller amount in 2020 versus 2021. Huge. And I know Neil Bradley has been talking about that extensively, telling companies this is something you're missing completely. You're missing it. You're just missing it. You're looking at PPP, you're looking at EIDL, and you're missing this employee tax credit. So folks that are on the call, please check again with your payroll companies and also your accountant to try to access those resources. So kind of to round it out, I think it was the Secretary of Economic Development, Keneally, who said if in this second round, Massachusetts gets what they got in the first round, we will see more than $9 billion come to small businesses in the state of Massachusetts alone. That money will all be pumped back into the local economy and to strengthen local companies. And he felt, I was going to ask Eli this, we'll have him back on in 2 weeks. Are they anticipating that volume and that success rate here in Massachusetts in phase 2, or the second draw, they're calling it, of PPP? And from what I see and what the state is saying is they are encouraging it. So companies should absolutely be applying for everything they can, because this brings federal dollars to our state. And we all know if it runs out, and it's likely to run out again, it's better to have those resources here so that our economy in the state of Massachusetts can benefit and get through this pandemic. So I want to thank all of you for being our panelists today and being with us again in this 40th week. We will be back in 2 weeks, and we'll have a featured guest with us that week as well. We'll have Ed Lambert from the Mass Business Education Alliance on with us to talk about one of the announcements today, which is the state's going to be providing testing for every public student in Massachusetts weekly. Billions of dollars a commitment made today at the governor's press conference. And what does that mean? Will that allow kids to return back to the schools? Will allow people to be in schools, teachers and whatnot, be more comfortable returning to the classroom? And will it keep people safer and more accountable, quite frankly, for their behavior in terms of having them tested each and every week before they're allowed to return to the classroom? That's teachers, custodians, principals, and students. So it may allow folks to be, again, back to the classroom, which, according to the governor, what he was saying is the data proves that the transmission rate in schools is not great, meaning it's a safe place to return to, but it also having the students learning and not missing an entire year is much greater than the risk of COVID spreading within the school department. So we'll hear from Ed in 2 weeks, and we'll have Eli back. Steve, we hope that you'll return as well. And of course, Susan and Margaret have been with us each and every session, so we appreciate that partnership. Any final comments or anything you want to share before we close out? All right, we ran a little long today. Thank you for bearing with us and staying with us. Please, again, reach out and let us know if there's additional information we can share, or if the speakers you'd like to hear, or if there's questions you have. Susan and Margaret also have said reach out directly to them as well. So thank you all. Have a great weekend. I hope you get outdoors and get some fresh air, and stay positive. Take care. Bye-bye.